You're watching Network Radio. Live from the Media Broadcasting Center.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'll just check my buttons here, and I'm just going to leave this little background up for a moment, since the screens usually cover quite a bit of them. I thought it was rather cool, and I wanted something to do with today's show of the money situation and shelter and so forth, a little bit tied in together. So I just found this one, and I thought it was kind of cool and kind of poignant as well. So I just wanted you to see the full thing at the same time. It looks like all my sound is good and things are happening here, so I'll continue. Welcome to another edition of Walking the Talk. I'm your host, Mark Russell, and we're kind of back on schedule here. I'll be on every other week for the next month or maybe two, depending on how the moves goes. As I mentioned in the previous shows, I am taking my household and getting out of Dodge, or preparing for matters that are to come, which through over the year with Media Broadcast Center, through the numerous shows, and Jim Fetzer and the rest of the hosts, and some of my shows have made it very clear what we're going to be in store for, what's the potential for things. And I think you can even see it ramping up on a daily basis. So a little bit of house cleaning first. The chicken wing seems to have gotten a little bit better this week, as being the first few days without wrapping up the arm, and on a bottle of aspirin every day. So last week was a little hard with doing some work up at the other property. We had a few challenges with that. If you're following on Facebook with my page, you'll be able to keep up to date with that, and I'll be going into a little bit further with the topic tonight about being shelter. And so that was good for me. I got back on Saturday morning, and of course the traffic down here in this area through Toronto and everything else is just brutal. We're getting to the long weekend this weekend. I hope everybody enjoys their last weekend of the summer, and a holiday Monday. But it's going to make going back up there to kind of finish off and so forth, because we're actually finishing the move for the following weekend. So that as I've been doing so much studying and so forth over the last 2 months, I made the determination then, and I believe I mentioned it on one of the shows, that by the 12th of September, I want to be out of this area and nowhere close to a city. So that's always been my intention over the last few months, and that's coming to pretty much a fruition. Of course, everything never goes to plan and so forth. As last week proves it, people don't show up, people don't do what they say they're going to do, and there's an awful lot that you can't count on. But you overcome those challenges, and we got matters done. Which I'll kind of swing into here is the first little slide that I want to bring in is a matter of last week. And I'll give you kind of the first shots, I suppose, of the property. It was quite a bit of a maybe not too much of an older home as far as age goes, but nobody took care of it at all. So there's been an awful lot of work. Basically, the whole house was the way that you see the rails across there. So Karen's been up there and just working her butt off to get the front restained and so forth. And as we discovered taking over the property, it wasn't just a matter of the roof was a little bit bad, but we ended up, after being there after the first rain, discovering a couple of very severe leaks. And then after a good storm, we found out there was more like 20, 30 really good leaks. So that kind of pushed up the whole agenda from doing the roof next year to doing it now, to prevent any further damage and so forth. It was pretty brutal. So, of course, that ended up being a total strip as well. So that didn't help the cause very much. And I have to thank my friend and brother in Christ, James, for absolutely sticking with it. And as it turns out, two old farts ended up doing things and getting a job done. And we had some funds, and we actually had a chance to, again, I guess, be off Facebook for a little bit and off of the computer and so forth. And we actually had a chance for a little bit of fellowship and to do some studying together and go through some lessons. That's my buddy James up at the top there. He's putting the ridge caps on, and we were just about finished. So we had it all stripped off, and we lost a couple of days with rain as well. So we were running around tarping and doing things. So we just got her finished up, and it was probably late Friday. We started it Monday, lost 2.5 days of rain. Didn't get things in until Monday afternoon for the shingles and the rest of it. So and then one kid who was supposed to help actually do the stripping part of it bailed. And so that left the two of us to do the strip and the lay. And it was quite the endeavor to get things done and so forth. But it was pretty good that we had a rain on Sunday, and Karen's up at the property, and it turns out that we actually didn't do a bad job. No leaks. So there you go. And as it came down to it, once again, as far as I've been saying with prepping and all the rest of it, we did the work ourselves. And this is just such a huge part of everything, especially when you start looking at what people want with labor on doing things, and then their company profits and all of the rest of it. Us, for one, we just simply couldn't afford to have somebody do a roof. So it was fortunate that I've done a few before and knew a little bit of what I was doing. And it did get one guy that was able to pull through and stick with me. But to simply just pay somebody to do it or a company to do it would have been impossible for the pricing and the quotes that we got for it. So because of the arm and everything else, Karen didn't want me doing it. But that's sometimes it's just a necessity of what you have to do. And I think people are going to start realizing through this time, this is what it's going to come down to. It doesn't really matter what you think you want and all the rest of it. You're going to have some very limited choices. And these times are going to get much and much tougher. And people are really going to have a rude awakening if they don't start paying attention to not only all the obscure things that are going on, but just the reality of things. This, if anybody's been paying attention to the markets and so forth, we know what's been going on with the Fed, the China dumping treasury bills, the stock markets, everything else. Things are not looking that promising unless you want to believe the mainstream media. But I do digress. I'm not going to be doing an awful lot of news focuses and everything else. There's hundreds of people out doing all of these things on YouTube and their own channels. Um, so feel free to do all your research about it. I'll touch base on a few things here and there, but my focus now is going to be on this property and sustainability, and the first part of that is shelter. And one of the main functions of shelter is also your roof. So that was our biggest thing with that. I will be coming up through the next weekend, and then in the move, we'll be doing. I'll be doing some taping up there, and the next show, 2 weeks from tonight, I will give you kind of an overview of the property and some of the projects. As you saw in the beginning there, now my next level is to fix the fascia board, run a piece of trough, and want to be putting above ground water collection up along the side of the house using a gravity feed to give us another source of water that is sustainable and renewable, and being able to collect what God is sending us. And that gives us a good area over there for gardens and so forth, and a ready water supply. And because we did have a notch, which was one of the prevalent things that we did with buying the property, was to have that elevation change in order to have the gravity feeds for the water and the water collection off of the roof without having to bury a cistern. So that was purposeful, and so I'm looking forward to getting that part of it done as well. And but I'll be updating the house through that side. The second part of tonight that I wanted to speak about was still under the premises of shelter. You know, we're so blessed here, and I've mentioned it in other shows. You know, what is it going to take for so many of us to wake up? And I really feel that we just have it so good here that we forget about other places in the world. And you know I've gotten going into the rabbit holes again a little bit with CERN and the money and all the rest of it. And you know, I really do fall much more into that. As the scriptures say, we have to be out of her. And you know, this money isn't going to last. This is going to be dead issue. And what's really going to take effect is where we are in our communities, how we're helping other people, what we're actually doing, and are we coming together? And you know, I've as my scriptural learning and so forth is progressing, I just really see this need and draw, and I know it's hard. Believe me, I've been going through the same process that everybody's going to have to go through. This is not easy, but yet it really is, because you can hand it over to greater powers and just do what you're supposed to do, and it kind of flows in. And whether you call that God and scriptures or the universe right now or whatever your labels are, it's still the same thing. And eventually you'll run into the truth that it is the Gospels and it is God that is the head of things. So when you hand things over, it does come. And that's everybody's personal journey. I've started another Facebook group and a show, Living in Faith in Today's World, that I focus much more on those aspects of things. And and give this time for a broader overview picture. But with that, I've seen so much over the last year, and that I've been sharing with you, that it gets so disheartening on the way people are and the subject matters and the non-solution, the non-performance of everything. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. And you know what? I've been in a lot of denial and kept on pushing through and just thought, you know what? If you just keep on trying, you just keep on going, it'll work itself out. It'll keep on going. You're not working hard enough. You're not doing this. And it really isn't the case. The truth of the matter is the vast majority of people don't care. It's not just a matter of knowledge. It's not a matter of not being awake. It's a matter of they don't care. They have things too good. They're too selfish. They're too self-centered. And unless it benefits them, they don't want nothing to do with it. They just don't care. And that's was a rude awakening for me, and it wasn't easy to deal with. And I went through a little process of up and down there. Like, what are we doing everything for? Like, what are we trying for, and so forth. And over the last couple of weeks, that has come more and more to fruition as more and more of the scales of my eyes have been cleared off to see how and who people around you are, what they say, but then what they perform. And, taking the rose-colored glasses off and holding things accountable for just the reality of what they are. And that's an ongoing process. And the more that process happens, the more that it's more and more clear and easier to become. So I also decided, you know what, I'm not going to let this change who I am. Even right back to CanadaTheNation and trying to do those projects that didn't work. It's not that my intent wasn't there. It wasn't that the ideas themselves weren't fundamentally sound or just or anything else. They didn't work because the people didn't make them work. And that's the bottom line of it. NERS is a great platform and has a fundamental way of changing things, but nobody wanted to do anything. And those things, like everything we have, takes the people's energy to perform. Nothing happens without us doing it. A war doesn't happen without somebody pulling the trigger. I don't care how many people are standing there ordering. It takes you to stand there and pull the trigger. I don't care. At the end of the day, it takes a human being to give anything energy. Whether it's in the law with a document that's only a piece of paper sitting there, it takes somebody to read it to make those pages come alive. It takes somebody to consent to it in order for that to come alive and account to you. And that will be the case always. It's going to be the people's choice of what bed they lay in. So I decided, though, I'm not going to let these things change who I am. It may change some of the focus and some of the scope of what I'm trying to do. But about a month ago, through some of my scriptural learning and starting the other group and joining in, I came across a gentleman that contacted me, and actually it was through a couple of mutual friends. And I'm going to pull up his page here, and I just got to switch this other button and turn that other button off, and then switch the screens. There we go. So it was King's Grace Church. And again, I was really, especially with what happened over the last few projects I've done. And the other fact of this, too, is, I've been contacted by people almost every day that want something. So, that was almost just as hard, if not harder, to accept what was going on. Is that here you are totally inundated all the time with everybody that wants everything from you, but any moment that you tried to do something, nobody was doing anything. So, that's a little switch that has to be dealt with as well. So I was, of course, after going all of these rabbit holes and the rest of it, very, very skeptical. But regardless, I've been following and speaking with them over the last month plus, and I've decided that just like my roof was important for me and my family and my future plans on being able to offer some refuge, offer some support, and whatever else that God has in plan for my path. Um, Part of that is also somebody else's roof. So it was kind of funny how I saw the parallel between my needs of my roof and what it meant to me and what it was entailing for my family and everything else. And here I had somebody from halfway around the world reaching out to me about their roof. And I found that kind of ironic. And it wasn't, believe me, I didn't miss it. But this is an organization in Uganda, and they have started to form coalitions of different churches. They have quite a network of things happening with a number of pastors and so forth. This is their Facebook group, so please stop by and join them. They do have their mailing address. They do have their phone number there. They don't have the funds for a website yet, and the rest of it. But my focus here was strictly on this project itself. Is one of the fundamental bit of housing, building structure with teaching facilities, schooling facilities, and church facilities that, of course, they double up and so forth. So it's both a school and a church and a full thing with the community. They were running and they are running out of temporary, and they've just been progressing. It's people that are just like us trying. And I know, believe me, I went through the same type of things that you're probably saying to yourself too. Oh, another place in Uganda, another scam, another thing. I went through all of that for myself, and I'm continuing to be very careful and so forth. But the more that I've kept on investigating, and I'm not doing anything by just having somebody send me an email asking for help, I'm way past that point. I hope everybody else is too. But we can't turn our back anymore. And I just can't stop being who I am either. And I refuse to let past letdowns or challenges or disappointments or anything else change who I am. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to. It's you can get into a whole bunch of rah-rah things or whatever, but the only time you lose is when you stop refusing to get up and keep on doing it and keep on trying. And I'm not giving up. What you people do is up to yourselves, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on our people. I'm not giving up on our First Nations. I'm not giving up on our lands. I'm not giving up on humanity. And I'm not giving up on myself or anybody else. So I will discern. I'll try to be wiser and I'll try to use knowledge, but I won't give up. And I won't change. I won't become hard. I won't change who I am. Stubborn? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you got a point. And I'm sure the wife will agree with you, but that's not being hard. That's just, I've got points of view. I can be passionate. I admit it. Um, so that being said, uh, let me switch over to the other screen again. And I wanted to show you within inside of the first discussions, because of course my first reply to a message from him was, well, now let's see. You're just another place here and so forth. So I wanted to show you a few of the pictures and so forth, but this is a few of their baptisms, a few of their ceremonies. They had a temporary structure out there for doing the schooling, his family. Some of the kids from the schools and them coming in and out with the temporary one, and I believe that's the side of the one they're trying to put up. Some temporary structures trying to do things, their actual services, and of course their full signage and all the rest of it, and email and so forth out of there. Now, as I showed you at the start right here, and anybody who's interested, I can send them a copy of the full email. But I've got a full description of his past, the road that he's had to travel for where he's at right now, and details of what they're doing with their church and their fellowship, and where their plans are to go. That they formed up a board. They work together with another conjunction of people. All decisions and funding are done through that committee, unless whoever donates something or sends anything is specifically earmarked. But what I found very encouraging and kept me from, this is another thing here. Somebody asked about the barbed wire, and I kind of agreed, and what they said was there's a road fairly close to here. So they have a lot of traffic and animals and so forth that try to kind of cut through the property in the schoolyard. So they put up fencing to help with that matter. But what I wanted to, well, it doesn't seem to want to go. They're again just their fellowship. Now this is where things got interesting for me. He totally understood my questions to him when I said, "Well, who are you? Do you understand? I get requests like this from ever, let alone just the fraud that's out there from every hack group. I mean, we've all gotten them." So not only did I get this long email and then some follow-up pictures of everything they're doing and the description and everything, I got his ID. And that's the first person I've ever talked to, including the idiots in this country and the U.S. that keep asking for everything and keep asking for money and keep asking for help and everything else. But it's kind of funny how they're all under false names and false Facebook accounts and false Twitter things and everything else. And whenever you ask a question, they disappear instead of turning around and actually, wow, there is their ID. I found that kind of really interesting. And this is Joanne's ID, and hopefully, I spoke with him today, and he'll be going from his village into town. And for the first time, we're hoping to. He'll be going to an internet cafe in there and so forth, and we're actually hoping to have a conversation on Skype uh, tomorrow morning. So I hope to be able to follow up with that. And he sent me the initial contract, which is the property agreement for the church itself, the land for the church. And this part of it was not even asking. So I found this to kind of really keep my curiosity, um, and it kind of surprised me when I asked a couple of very simple questions. Who are you? How do I know? And this is what I got. And I found this absolutely uh, extraordinary that this was the type of action that I was getting from. Sorry, I'm playing around with Windows here, so I'm a little distracted. But I found this quite interesting, and it just compelled me to even follow what was going on even more. So I kept on researching a little bit and so forth. One of the things that I also found that was a little bit useful was that with their ID and everything else, I was able to uh, pull up things with. Of course, this is as far as the location goes. And I did have another one I wanted to show you first. But I actually, through his email, I started to look with inside of the country at what different roofing programs were and so forth. Then I got his email and found out this was the company, which was one of the ones that I was researching, that is actually supplying, that they're purchasing the roof from, which then I turned around and where was it again? Oh, geez. Okay, it was a little bit of time before I did this. Sorry about that. It was under find a dealer somewhere, but as it turns out, I can show that to you again in a moment. I'll show you their actual location here. Um, they are in Uganda, and I was quite surprised at such a landlocked uh, territory. And quite surprising when I started looking into the history and so forth of there. I thought I had pinned everything, and I guess I didn't. But there's where the roofing company is from. The manufacturers, of course, everything is in U.S. dollars, so that kind of hurts a little bit. But I'm going to. I'm sorry. Just a little bit because I thought I had them pinned. But regardless, there's the full address and so forth on things. I thought I had the contractor's location pinned, but I guess I didn't. Uh, that's another one that I'll be able to pull up. You know what? Why don't I just try to do that right now? And that doesn't like me to do that while I'm on air, of course. But one of the aspects, yep, that was coming through. So they actually had a couple of the donations and so forth, and as of today, because I was speaking with them today, they went and put their first down payment on the project for the roof. So that I found, again, very telling that anything that is happening, because he has specifically asked me to help with the roof project. And I, by all means, have decided to take this on. And I'm going to be uh, asking for help with it. I'm going to be bugging people. And I want to see this come to fruition. And if I actually have to uh, uh, do it myself, I will. But you know what? I don't think we should have to. We've got to start standing up and taking care of each other, and we got to start doing what's right. It's kind of that simple with things. Uh, this again was their funding that they had initially got. They got $30. I'm getting receipts for absolutely everything that comes into the funding account, and then showing those funds going back to the purchasing. I've also contacted the roofing company myself, the manufacturer of it, to see if there's some kind of a discounting or something that we can do. You never know who we can end up talking to, what can end up happening when you speak to somebody. So I've reached out to them with an initial email to find out who I can speak with, and we'll see where that goes. Uh, I just wanted to pull up that um, email again. Let me go to my account here. There it is there. I have to find out where it is. It should be that one. There we go. Sorry about that. So that was the full email I got on that end of it, and then I believe it was this one. There is the actual quotation from the contractor and so forth that will be servicing the full project. So at this point, we have $3,117 to come up with to give this structure a completed steel roof that will last their lifetime. Wow. That's about 1/3 of the price I got on doing half of my roof. That's only going to last 10 years. You know, if I was over there, I would pick up a hammer and work it off. I would try to figure out some way to do it. Trade for the material, do the labor myself, whatever. But we also can only do things that are in our scope. And you know, we're not trying to change the whole world here or anything else. And I know we're all inundated, and me included, with all kinds of things. But I try to look at where our value is for our energy. And you know, these are people that are standing up and doing good works, and they're taking care of an awful lot of needs of others. And I found for myself that this is one thing that I wanted to throw my support behind in my endeavors, is things that are going to turn around and magnify themselves and even do more than just giving something and then it's stopping there. It's being used up. It's finished. You know, there's space for it. That's why we're going to do the gardens at the property and try to supply the community with food and people that need that. But that's only one aspect. my concentration for a lot of my things are going to be for things that can propel itself, that are going to give people tools and the ability to be able to do more and help more people. This is one of those projects. So I'm going to be speaking with them tomorrow morning, if all connections go well. I have contacted the roofing company, but as it is of right now, my target is $3,100 US, and I want to, by the end of September, put that together and bring this project to fruition. They, of course, experience their frustration and so forth. It's a big world. There's an awful lot of people asking for things out there. And I know for a fact just how hard things are. Sometimes I shake my head. I don't get it. Like, how can some hospital downtown raise $1 million and nothing? It seems like you got to throw money and money and money after all kinds of things, or you have to have sick kids or something instead of solving it before the problem. Or you get 10,000 people out walking, and you throw billions of dollars away for a disease that's 100% curable, and yet you can't put together to help a couple hundred people directly and affect their lives in a positive aspect. So, but like I said, I'm not giving up. So I hope you'll answer my call. I hope that you will return my messages, and I hope that in any manner at all, that if you wish to inquire more about this, if you wish to help in some manner, whether it's sharing it or whether it's donating a couple of dollars or whether you have an idea or whatever, you of course can contact me through the Facebook page. And I'm going to start a Facebook group about it and try to get that out. Again, I'm not going to turn around and just simply do another Facebook thing. I think we all know those have to be down to a certain amount of energy. So, but I will put something there so people can collaborate and at least communicate through and so forth. And we'll see where it goes. Either way, I am going to get this done. I don't care for my own end of it. I've booked in 4 Sundays at work for September. I will continue doing this side of the project with trying to contact people and trying to raise the funds and so forth. But I've booked in my next 4 Sundays at work where those proceeds will be donated to this fund. Whatever I can manage to make that day will go to this project. So if you are in the Southern Ontario GTA area, Hamilton, Niagara, and you wish to donate, but you want something back out of it, again, contact me and I'll do a value of exchange, and let's see what we can work together with, and let's see what we can come up with. But I think, honestly, we can all do this. Please pick a project in your life, pick a passion, pick something, and try to make the world a little better tomorrow than it is today. And as always, God bless. Try to be a little better tomorrow than you are today.